Look at this bay. No one is here, not because the shop is closed, not because it is a holiday. The lights are on, the lifts are ready. The parking lot outside is 3 cars deep. The bay is empty because there is no one left to fill it. 642,000. That is how many automotive technician positions will be unfilled in the United States by the end of this decade. Not positions that are open for a few weeks, gone, permanently empty, because the people who used to fill them are disappearing and almost nobody in power is talking about it. Today, that changes. Because what is happening inside America's service bays is not just a staffing problem, it is the slow, deliberate destruction of an entire profession. And if you own a car, if you depend on one to get to work or pick up your kids, then what I am about to tell you is going to affect you directly. This is the death of the American car mechanic, and the system killed it on purpose. There was a time, not long ago, when the mechanic was one of the most respected people in a community. The person who kept your car alive, the one who figured out in 30 seconds what the dealer wanted 3 days to diagnose. They had waiting lists because people trusted them, not because there was no one else to call. 9%. That is the rate at which experienced, master-level technicians are retiring every single year. These are the people who carry 40 years of knowledge in their hands, who can hear a misfire and tell you whether it is the coil, the injector, or the cam sensor before they even open the hood. They are leaving, and the pipeline to replace them has been dry for 20 years. And here's the question that no one in Washington, nobody in Detroit, and nobody on your local school board seems to want to answer. How did we let this happen? The answer is not one thing, it is 4. And every single one of them was a choice made by people in boardrooms and committee rooms, while the mechanic kept his head down and got on with the work. For 30 years, America handed every child a script. And the script said, go to college, get a degree. That is the only path worth taking. Becoming a mechanic, becoming a welder, a plumber, an electrician. That was treated as what you did when you failed, when you were not smart enough for the real world. Guidance counselors steered students away from the trades as if the shops themselves were off limits. 84%. That is the share of working technicians who say the school system actively blocked young people from entering the trades, not passively ignored it, actively blocked it. The result is a generation of graduates buried in student debt, working jobs that have nothing to do with their degrees, while master technicians who earn 6-figure incomes cannot find a single qualified person to train. The cruel irony is this: the college graduate with $80,000 in debt is struggling to find work, and the service bay that could have paid him well, trained him into something valuable, respected him for what he knows, is sitting empty. Because we told him it was beneath him. Now say you ignored all of that. Say you went to trade school, got your certifications, and walked into a dealership ready to build a career. What was waiting for you was a pay system designed not to reward your skill, but to squeeze it. It is called flat rate. On paper, it sounds fair. The manufacturer sets a standard time for every job. Finish faster than that time, and you come out ahead. Take longer, and you lose. But here's what they do not tell you at orientation. A complex diagnostic job, chasing an intermittent electrical fault, tracking a noise that only shows up at operating temperature, can take 4, 5, or 6 hours of real work. Real problem solving. The manufacturer's labor guide says 1 hour. You get paid for 1 hour. The rest is yours to absorb. Meanwhile, the dealership charges the customer $200 an hour. The technician takes home $30 to $40 of that. And on top of all of it, the technician is expected to buy his own tools, not a wrench and a screwdriver. We are talking oscilloscopes, scan tools, specialized adapters, a professional toolkit that can cost upward of $50,000 out of his own pocket. Compare that to a licensed electrician or HVAC technician, more pay, employer-supplied equipment, predictable hours. The honest question is not why mechanics are leaving, it is why any of them stayed this long. Then came the private equity firms, and what they saw in the independent repair shop had nothing to do with fixing cars. They saw customer trust, decades of it, built slowly, repair, by owners who knew your name and stood behind their work. So they bought the shops, kept the signs, kept the names, and gutted everything that made them worth trusting. Overnight, The technician stopped being a craftsman and became a commissioned salesman in a uniform. Do not fix the small AC leak. Recommend replacing the whole compressor. Do not patch the worn seal. Sell a full assembly replacement. Every visit became an upsell opportunity. The honest mechanics, the ones who actually cared about the work, could not stomach it. So they left. And when they walked out, they did not just take their labor. They took everything they knew, every pattern, every shortcut born from experience, every instinct that no textbook ever captured. That knowledge does not get replaced. It disappears. Just when you thought the economics alone were enough to finish the trade, the manufacturers showed up with the final weapon: software lock-in. Here is how it works now. You replace a headlight on a modern vehicle. You install an identical part. You reconnect everything correctly, and the car refuses to recognize it because the ECU needs authorization from the manufacturer's server before it will accept the new component. Without that access, the part is rejected. The car does not work. You replace the part, but the car wants permission to use it. More than 50% of independent repair shops are being forced to turn customers away today because they cannot afford access to proprietary manufacturer software. Small shops pay thousands of dollars per year per brand just for the ability to complete repairs that a wrench and a parts diagram used to handle for free. And who profits from that arrangement? The manufacturer. Who suffers? The independent mechanic, the small shop owner, and in the end, you. Because when a $12 circuit board becomes a $900 module swap because the repair is software locked, that is not progress. That is a controlled monopoly dressed up as technology. Here is what nobody is saying loudly enough. This is not just a staffing crisis. What is disappearing is far harder to replace than headcount. It is mechanical instinct. A master technician does not need a code to tell him where to look. He hears a knock and knows whether it is a rod bearing or a collapsed lifter. He feels a hesitation in the throttle and traces it back to a cam sensor that is drifting on resistance long before the ECU throws a code. That is not something you can download. You cannot get it from a certification course. It builds over thousands of hours of real diagnosis, real failure, and real discovery. And when the last master technicians retire, which at 9% a year is happening faster than most people want to admit, that knowledge goes with them. What follows is a generation of technicians trained to read a screen, follow a flowchart, and replace parts at random until the symptom goes away. The service bay does not go dark all at once. It dims slowly. A longer wait this year, a bigger bill next year, a repair done wrong, an older car that no shop will touch. Until one day, you call 12 shops and not one of them can actually fix what is wrong with your car. The industry will not fix itself. The manufacturers have too much to gain from the current system. Private equity has no reason to change. The school system moves too slowly. But there are 3 things you can do right now to protect yourself before this crisis fully arrives. Rule 1. Find your mechanic before your car breaks down. Do not wait until something goes wrong. Look for independent shops where the owner is still turning wrenches, where experienced technicians have been there for years, where the shop invests in proper diagnostic tools. When you find a place like that, be loyal. Refer people, because shops like that are closing faster than new ones can open. Rule 2. Maintain your car like you will not get a second chance. In a world where a replacement engine costs $5,000 and the wait is 3 weeks, the $60 oil change is not optional. Maintenance is your insurance policy. Listen to your car. Act early. Because when truly skilled technicians become scarce, getting a major repair done right becomes a matter of luck as much as anything else. Rule 3. Buy a vehicle that any good shop can work on. Avoid vehicles locked behind dealer-exclusive software. Stick to common, well-supported platforms with widely available parts. In the years ahead, the smartest vehicle is not the most connected one. It is the one a skilled independent mechanic can still touch and fix without asking a server for permission. The empty service bay is not an accident. It is the outcome of 30 years of bad decisions made by people who never once picked up a wrench. The mechanic did not abandon the trade abandoned the mechanic. And until we are honest about that, until we start treating these people with the respect their skill actually deserves, those bays are going to stay empty. The most advanced scan tool in the world cannot replace the trained ear and sharp instinct of a master mechanic. If you are lucky enough to find one, value them, because they are almost gone.